So here we go, the big one, the Fabian Society, the wolf in sheep's clothing. You see, most people have never heard of the Fabian Society, and that's exactly how they like it. Quiet, polite, academic, but massively influential. If you've ever wondered why Britain feels like it's been nudged for decades in one direction, today's bigger government, social engineering, and endless long-term planning, well, that never seems to involve you. Well, that's Fabianism. They don't riot in the streets, they don't storm parliaments, they sit in libraries and think tanks writing papers and slowly bending politics to their will. A literal wolf in sheep's clothing. Their own logo was a wolf wearing a sheepskin. They even brag about the method: gradual, sneaky, persistent. So today, I'm breaking down exactly who the Fabians are. I have done this before many times, but you probably didn't see it. Where they came from, how they built the Labour Party in their image, and why their fingerprints are still all over politics today. From Tony Blair's third way to Keir Starmer's obsession with managed decline dressed up as progress. And I'll show you how this 140-year club of intellectuals still feeds the same unelected elitist agenda we see with groups like the World Economic Forum. Because if you don't know Fabianism, you don't really understand how Britain got here. So first up, let's start with their origins and founding. The Fabian Society was founded in 1884 in London. Its key figures were Sidney Webb, his wife Beatrice Webb, playwright George Bernard Shaw, and a handful of other middle-class intellectuals. Their mission, to bring socialism to Britain, but not the fiery, revolutionary Marxism of the barricades. No, their genius, or their trick, depending on your view, was patience. They believed socialism could be achieved not through revolution, but through slow infiltration. Institutions, schools, civil service, political parties slowly re-engineer the system from within. And their name comes from Quintus Fabius Maximus, a Roman general who fought Hannibal, not with head-on battles, but with delay, attrition, and gradual strategy. Fabian tactics became a phrase for winning by patience. They embraced that. They would wait, wear down, chip away, and never, ever stop. That's why they've lasted so long. They weren't a flash-in-the-pan radical movement. They were termites, and termites don't shout. They just quietly eat away at the foundations until the whole house is theirs. And what's worse is they told you straight, the wolf in sheep's clothing emblem, not even hidden, it was a statement. We'll dress our intentions in respectable, harmless clothing, while our real goal is power. Later, when people started pointing out how sinister that looked, they swapped it for a tortoise. When I strike hard was the logo. Same idea. Their approach was permutation. Rather than build their own mass party from scratch, they would worm their way into existing institutions. They joined the Liberal Party. They infiltrated trade unions. They wrote pamphlets and books that educated the next generation of civil servants. And their 1889 pamphlet, Fabian Essays in Socialism, was a bestseller. They created the London School of Economics in 1895. Yes, the LSE was literally a Fabian creation, designed to train generations of administrators and economists in gradualist socialism. And when Labour finally emerged in the early 1900s, the Fabians were there to provide the brains, the policies, and the patient strategy. But you can't tell the story of Labour without the Fabian Society. You see, Ramsay MacDonald, the first Labour Prime Minister, was a Fabian. Clement Attlee, who built the post-war welfare state, was a Fabian. And Tony Blair was the chairman of the Fabian Society before he became Prime Minister. Even Keir Starmer is a long-standing Fabian. It's like a conveyor belt. The party might change faces, but the Fabian blueprint stays the same. And their big moment was 1945. Clement Attlee's Labour government rolled out the NHS, nationalised industries, expanded welfare, and reshaped Britain after the war. The Fabians saw it as their triumph, and in many ways it was. But here's the catch. It wasn't revolution, it was bureaucracy. More control, more state, more centralisation. And once those structures are in, they rarely get rolled back. Fast forward to the 1990s, Tony Blair modernised Labour with his third way, but the skeleton underneath was still Fabian, pragmatic, managerial, obsessed with long-term nudges. Rather than open debate, Blair described himself proudly as a Fabian, and his government was packed with them. Today, Keir Starmer is cut from the exact same cloth. Polished, technocratic, loyally, the classic Fabian. Looks boring, sounds reasonable, but behind it is the same ideology of control. Now you might ask, why does this matter today? Well, because Fabianism is the grandfather of the modern technocratic elite. The idea that unelected intellectuals, planners, and experts should quietly steer society without asking permission. Does that sound familiar? It should. It's exactly how the EU operates. It's also exactly how the World Economic Forum talks. It's exactly how every global governance project works. You don't get a choice. They'll just tell you it's for your own good. And it will be phased in gradually until it's too late to object. You see, the Fabians believed in educating the public into socialism, not asking them. And if the public kicked up a fuss, they'd wait them out, they'd work around them, they'd drown them in endless reports and consultations until the opposition wore down. That's how net zero is being sold. That's how digital ID is being pushed. Fabian tactics all the way. So what's the actual problem with Fabianism? Some will say, well, they gave us the NHS, they gave us welfare, they expanded education, but the cost was democracy itself being diluted. The Fabian method is elitist to its core. It assumes the public are too thick to understand big ideas. It assumes change must be sneaked past people, not debated openly. And it leaves us with political parties that all drink from the same intellectual trough. That's why Labour and the Tories often look like two wings of the same bird, because the civil service, the universities, and the think tanks have been permeated for over a century by the Fabian Society. It's not a conspiracy theory. The Fabians publish their reports openly. Their conferences are attended by MPs, journalists, corporate lobbyists. They're not hiding. They're just banking on the fact that you're too busy working, paying bills, and living life to even notice. That's their biggest trick. They even have a wiki page. And I'll be blunt, when you see Keir Starmer reading bland sound bites about long-term missions, you're not hearing an original idea. You're not hearing anything constructed by the cabinet. You're hearing 140 years of Fabian gradualism polished up to 2025. Starmer isn't leading, he's recycling, and Blair before him was doing exactly the same thing. You see, if the Fabians were a band, they'd be Coldplay, quiet, unthreatening, but somehow still everywhere. If they were a pet, they'd be a cat, sneaking around, knocking your stuff over, and then looking at you like it was your fault. And if they were honest, their slogan wouldn't be for the many, not the few. It would be for the few disguised as the many. The wolf in sheep's clothing wasn't a joke. It was a confession. And Britain has been living under Fabian tactics for over a century without most people even knowing the name or who they are. So to wrap it up, let's pull it all together. The Fabian Society is not some fringe club. It's the quiet architect of modern Britain, from Attlee's welfare state to Blair's third way to Starmer's grey technocracy. The Fabians provided the ideology, the strategy, and the methods, and their method is always the same: gradualism, permutation, control dressed up as compassion. That's why I think people need to know the name, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. The endless long-term missions, the reports, the nudges, the policies no one asked for, but everyone somehow ends up living under. That is Fabianism, and it ties directly into the same unelected global elite thinking we see with the WEF, the EU, and every other alphabet organization that thinks it knows better than you. The choice is really quite simple. Either we start calling this out, challenging it, demanding openness and accountability, or we keep sleepwalking while the wolf tightens its sheepskin. So I say to you this: your move, Britain.